everybody.
Hey everybody.
Well, it's been a minute, but we're back.
Yes, it's been a few weeks, a little more than a few weeks. So yes, we haven't made a video in, I don't know, 6 or 7 weeks, and just life has gotten in the way. I had the flu for a couple weeks, and then I was out of the country for 5 days, and then I came back and I had a bad cold for another week.
Yeah.
And yeah, we've just been incredibly busy.
Yeah, that's an understatement. This is probably the busiest we've been in the last year with everything we've got going on. So it's not like we haven't thought about it. It's not like we haven't talked about it. It's not like we haven't done research. It's the time. It's absolutely just the time.
Yeah. And we really do appreciate a lot of, there's been probably 3 or 4 people who have, actually emailed us to see if we were okay.
Yep.
And it meant a lot to us to get those emails. So thank you guys very much for taking the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Good people out there.
There are good people out there, despite what Watchtower will tell you.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking about that today.
So I guess we're just going to start with the March broadcasting, although it is getting towards the end of the month. There were a lot of things in it that we wanted to talk about.
And being that it was kind of aimed at young people, it was kind of right in our wheelhouse. Like, this is something we've talked about from the beginning. If we could prevent one young person from wasting his life in this organization, that's what we want. And so being that this is aimed at young people, we thought we would give it our twist, our rebuttal, in dealing with young people.
Yeah. So let's just get started. We'll play like we do normally. We'll play a clip and then we'll talk about it. So March 2017 JW Broadcasting.
My theme for this month's broadcast is Young Ones. Build your future with Jehovah. If you do, 1 Timothy 6:19 assures that you will safely treasure up for yourself a fine foundation for the future, and you will get a firm hold on the real life. Obviously, we will be directing many of our comments directly to you, dear young ones, in Jehovah's organization.
And so will we.
Yet if we think about it, all of us figuratively are very young ones compared to eternity, how long we hope to live. So in a sense, our comments during this broadcast have application to all of us. Personally, I am so thankful to Jehovah that positive peer pressure was put on me to enter the pioneer ministry right out of high school.
I just kind of, his phrase, he was grateful that he had positive peer pressure put on him to enter the full-time ministry straight out of high school. Sounds like he may not have wanted to do that, but he's grateful that he gave in to that peer pressure to do that. So just an interesting use of words there, that he felt peer pressure to do it.
Right, and keep in mind, the use of his words is also clever because positive peer pressure that word positive is only used because he dedicated his life to serving Jehovah. Any other choice he would have made in his life wouldn't have been a positive one. So the positive peer pressure is only because he made that choice, that one specific choice.
What a blessing and a protection it was to enter the regular pioneer work at age 17 and to be able to go to Bethel at 18. Even though there was considerable worldly pressure put on me to pursue university education.
Notice there was considerable pressure put on him to have a worldly education. Most people would say pressure to go to college would be positive peer pressure in today's world, because knowledge is power. So just interesting, the choices of words he used there.
I am so happy that with Jehovah's help, I decided to build my future with Jehovah.
I don't know. This is the thing that's so frustrating, because everything that is good, that they perceive as being good, is with Jehovah's help. And by Jehovah's direction, and Jehovah provided. Well, maybe things just work out sometimes, for your benefit. I don't know. I just hate the way that they always, nothing can be just, because this person helped me and this person helped me. Well, even if that person helped you, that was Jehovah helping you.
Yeah, or it could even be, I aligned my life in a certain path to achieve certain goals, but when I reached those goals, it was because of Jehovah's help. It doesn't have anything to do with the years of planning and the steps you took to reach this certain goal. It's giving all credit to Jehovah for everything.
That's because every part of their life has to constantly be focused on Jehovah. And there's no room for anything personal that you want, any of your goals and dreams, if it's not aligned with what the organization wants you to do.
And thus the difference between worldly pressure and positive peer pressure.
Truly, I have no regrets.
So Brother Let is talking about the decisions that he made to align himself with the organization, and he's saying, pursue Jehovah's interests, and that he did all of this and he has no regrets. He has no regrets of, a career that he might have given up on outside the organization, in the world, and no regrets. I'm assuming he didn't have children with his wife, if he still served at Bethel all his life, because they couldn't have had children and do that. So he has no regrets. But it's interesting, because they're gearing this towards young people and not wanting them to pursue the things of the world. But they have to know what's going on around the world and the negative publicity that the witnesses are receiving.
Not just lawsuits directly against the organization, but you cannot miss the Australian Royal Commission, which is an investigation into the organizational procedures around child sexual abuse and how they're handled, which they have been found to be completely insufficient according to the standards of the law. So I just thought it was interesting also. He has no regrets, knowing that people have committed suicide, knowing that people have died from not taking blood transfusions, knowing that he's crippling young people by not allowing them or giving them positive peer pressure to not have a college education, therefore limiting their future choices in life so greatly. He has no regrets about doing any of these things, and yet he has to know. He's a member of the governing body. They know all the ins and outs in every country of what's happening, and yet he has no regrets. Well, he has to say that, right? He has to say
that. I mean,
otherwise everyone's out. So just think about where this is coming from. You know for a fact that as a governing body member, he knows about the problems in the organization. He also, no doubt, has had many discussions with the brothers about the failed prophecies, about the overlapping generations in 1914. How are we going to handle this situation so everyone doesn't leave the organization? But I have no regrets. No regrets about tearing families apart, no regrets about breaking up marriages, no regrets about any of that stuff.
well, of course not. He's at the top. He's the top 1 of 7 of this organization. So, hey, this got him to the top. And now he's making policy decisions and, affecting millions of people's lives through those decisions.
And this is always true of young ones who serve Jehovah from their hearts. They have no regrets.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
They're young.
Young people who serve Jehovah from their hearts have no regrets. Well, I can tell you, as a former Jehovah's Witness, as a person who was baptized at the age of 15 and was serving that organization for decades afterward, I got some regrets.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. You may not realize this, young ones, at this age, but when you get a little older, get a little more wisdom, a little more experiences under your belt, learn a little more about the organization, you may have deep regrets over the things that you passed up and opportunities that you said goodbye to, just thinking that this world was coming to an end and that it didn't mean anything.
The one thing we can't get back is time.
In fact, you will enjoy these expressions from young ones who are building their future with Jehovah.
Before I started pioneering, I was really nervous that I wouldn't be able to get my time in every month.
It was a bit hard when I started pioneering because I didn't have a car.
My boss, he didn't give me part-time work.
I found it really hard to balance schoolwork and pioneering at the same time.
My biggest struggle was fear of man, so that really hindered me because I wasn't very good at talking to people.
Having a good routine was the struggle.
My brother and I are the only ones in the truth. My family didn't understand why we wanted to go preaching.
I didn't think that I'd make a good pioneer.
Well, I've had type 1 diabetes since I was 5, so I was always worried about whether or not I could balance that health condition with pioneering.
Challenges don't seem that big now, but back at that time they were a really big deal. But the coolest thing was how Jehovah helped me.
They're covering all their bases here, all the reasons why you may say that you can't pioneer, that it's too hard for you to pioneer. Whether it's time management, whether it's finding the right work, whether it's health challenges, whether it's that you're afraid to talk to people in the ministry. So they're covering every basis here.
Don't forget the most important one. She didn't feel that she was worthy to do it. The one who had low self-esteem and didn't feel like she was, how common is that? So the reason I stopped it right there is because this young man was saying, I thought these things were giant challenges and big problems, and I realized as I got older, they weren't that big of a deal. That's the key right there, young people. Most things in your life right now, as you get older, the monumental problems that you face will get smaller and smaller and smaller in the distance as you get older. So when you're 30, something that happened to you when you were 18 that seemed like it could have definitely been the end of the world, you may look back at it and laugh, or at least be able to look at it with a completely different perspective. And I think that's a really important thing to help people, young people especially, because I didn't understand that when I was young. You're so in the moment that you don't often think 2 decades down the line. And I think when you're so put forward with eternity down the line and serving Jehovah forever, I think you should look 20 years down the line just to think about what your future is. Just give it a little more thought, because as this young man said, these problems I had when I was younger, they didn't seem like such a big deal as time went on, and I feel like you will feel the same way as well.
Yeah, but not for the reason that he's saying it in this video.
Whole different thing. Yeah.
Prayer to Jehovah helped me overcome my fears.
My family were a massive help from Jehovah because my dad was the one who first encouraged me to pioneer. When I did start pioneering, he promised that I would have the full support of my family.
Hey, yeah, your family is a massive help from Jehovah until you become inactive or you find out that there's something wrong with the organization, or
start questioning their policies and procedures and start asking questions like, why were they members of the UN as an NGO?
Why does everyone else in the world say Jerusalem was destroyed in 586 and Jehovah's Witnesses say 607? Doesn't that kind of throw the dates off?
Why are you asking these questions? What have you been reading?
Sounds like you've been listening to apostate material. So quick to dismiss any rational, real question, and then want to talk to you about being an apostate, dismissing any question you had to begin with and changing the subject to that.
So see how much family help you're going to get when you start getting labeled as an apostate.
No, there's no family to help you because they disown you.
When I spoke to brothers and sisters who spent their youth in the full-time service, that really helped me because it was really encouraging and it really motivated me to want to make my own memories and my own experiences in the full-time service.
So there were practical things I could do. When I didn't have a car, I just walked or I caught the bus.
I had to work out what my priorities were first, so I had to find out how many hours did I have to go witnessing every week. So then I just sat down and I looked at every day and planned out which days I could go witnessing, which days I had to go to school, and also allocate time so that I could do my homework and study.
Having a schedule was really good because I could see it all out in front of me and I could see that the hour requirement was actually attainable, so that made it a lot less daunting.
I first set short-term goals of pioneering in the special months of activity. Then I was able to begin continuous auxiliary, and then eventually I started regular pioneering.
One of the best things I did to prepare myself for pioneering was to auxiliary pioneer beforehand. It really set me up to be able to overcome any challenges that I faced while I was pioneering.
I thought about Malachi 3:10. I knew I trusted in Jehovah, but this was my chance to test him out.
I prayed, put my trust in Jehovah, and put my application in.
After my form was in for pioneering, my brother called me and offered me work.
I had unemployment for 3 months, which wasn't a good time. But during that time, I had Jehovah as my main focus, and so he supported me and he didn't let me down.
Again, he supported me, he didn't let me down. How? How? People make these blanket statements, but they don't back it up with any evidence of how that help came.
I mean, for all we know, she's living at home with mom and dad and everything continued as normal. We just don't know anything about these people's situations.
No, and it's like, you know, you make it through hard times. Everybody does. Everybody makes it through hard times. And the saying goes, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So, you know, does that mean that you were being supported by a higher power to get through that time? I mean, we all make it through difficult times.
Can I share a little story real quick?
Yes.
An actual real life story.
Okay.
When I was a young Jehovah's Witness, about the age of 18, I had friends in Cocoa Beach that I would frequently drive to visit, spend the weekend with, and see them. And I remember on one particular weekend, I used to drive back late at night and then, you know, get home 2, 3 in the morning so I could have more time to spend with my friends. So basically one night I realized as I was driving, there was smoke coming from the front of my car. So I popped the hood, pulled over, popped up in the hood, and saw that one of the belts on my car was shredded. And it was slipping as it went around the pulleys, and it was smoking, and I'm still over 100 miles from home. And I was actually praying to Jehovah.
Night, right?
This is the middle of the night, and I'm on the turnpike. No, I'm on I-95 in the middle of nowhere. Like, I would have probably been 30 miles in any direction for anything.
Wow.
So my car's smoking, and I just was praying to let me make it home. Let me make it home, Jehovah. You know, just keep me safe. Let me get there. Hey, I made it home. My car cruised all the way home, no problem. You know, the next morning when I started the car, or I went to start the car, the belt broke. And I said to myself, Jehovah God, you really did me a good one. You did me a solid, because that belt was going to break. And now as an adult, and I had attributed that to Jehovah when I was younger. As an adult now, I realize if I would have stopped my car then, 100 miles away, and tried to start it again, the belt would have probably broken anyway. The only thing that kept that car running is that I let it keep running. I didn't stop the belt. So, you know, this is a common sense thing. This is something that any mechanic would have been able to discern in 2 minutes And here I am so quick to attribute it to Jehovah. Why? I didn't have the knowledge of what was actually happening. And that is so often the case.
Right. I mean, so the whole point of this propaganda video, which we're not even through yet, is to try to convince you that Jehovah will bless you. Jehovah will make sure that everything works out for you, so that you can pioneer and spend your youth praising his name.
And the actual truth about every single one of these people is a good schedule. They told you right in there, but they attribute so much to God. But all of the things that these young people were able to accomplish is because they had a good schedule. They figured out how many hours I got to go in service each day, what I have to do, I've got classes, I've got a job. And the one sister who doesn't have a job, man, there's been so many people who have been out of work. And, you know, I would think as a young person, persistence would eventually pay off in finding some type of a job, no matter what. Yeah. So, you know, again, attributing that to Jehovah it's really just it's superstitious in a way.
It is, and think about all of the young people, all the stories that you hear about people who grew up, even in the United States, in really sheer poverty, but who were go-getters, and they were smart, and they were able to get scholarships. And if they weren't able to get scholarships, then they worked 2 and 3 jobs, putting themselves through school. And I mean, they worked hard. And in the end result, they were blessed by being able to get their education and get a good career and you know, whatever else they were able to attain from just sheer determination and persistence and not giving up. So are these people being blessed by Jehovah too, to accomplish their goals?
And one more thing, the goal of being a pioneer does not require any special education. It doesn't require anything special other than you want to do it. You have to be a Jehovah's Witness in good standing, a publisher, and you have to be making at least, and probably much more than the national average in hours. If you do that consistently for a few months, you're at the meetings, you're commenting, you're participating, you're in service, you're making more than the national average of hours, and you say to any one of the brothers, hey, I want to sign up to be an auxiliary pioneer. Everybody says yes. Everybody says yes. So it's not like it was such a struggle to be a pioneer. No, you just have to do basic things and they automatically will say yes to you.
Yeah.
You fit these requirements. You're in.
Yeah.
You know? So it's not hard to be a pioneer. It's difficult. I won't tell you it's easy. Not easy.
Right.
But it's easy to get in.
Yeah. So, anyways, it's just, like we said, it's a propaganda video trying to make you feel good, feel like you can do it, and any of your excuses why you can't, you know, they're telling you these aren't valid. You can find ways around it.
That actually works for everything else in your life as well. You want to go to college? You can find a way to do it. You want to achieve a certain path, or you want to be a professor, or you want to be a scientist, or you want to be anything. You can achieve that just like these people achieved their goals, by good scheduling and putting practical things into use. You know, take the right classes in high school if you want a certain career afterward. You know, just align yourself with what you want. That's what these young people did. But it doesn't have to limit you to being a pioneer. You can be anything that you want to be. And
Except president if you're a woman.
Not yet, anyway. And we're only 6 minutes in. We're only 6 minutes into this.
Asking brothers and sisters to come and work with me maybe on days that I knew that I wouldn't get as much support really helped. That helped me to organise my hours a little bit more, and also I'd get to know my brothers and sisters more as well.
One of the greatest joys of pioneering has been to pioneer with Mum. And we had the privilege of going to the pioneer school together, which was really special.
Psalm 16 verse 8 reminds me that Jehovah is right beside me. When I'm preaching, it's like Jehovah is holding my hand.
So with full-time service, I love making Jehovah happy with everything that he's given me. I'm finally able to give something back.
Looking back, pioneering, it was the best decision I've ever made. It's opened up so many different avenues of service to Jehovah, and it helped me also to have that real desire to want to stay in full-time service.
Okay, he makes a good point. It's opened up different avenues of service to Jehovah because he's a male. So that means he's probably a ministerial servant now, because if you are a male and you are a pioneer, then basically they have no choice but to make you a ministerial servant.
Yeah.
Mike and Kim brought that out in some of their videos, that the brothers wouldn't make him a ministerial servant, so he found a way around it and started pioneering. And when the circuit overseer came, guess what? Now he was appointed a ministerial servant because the circuit overseer said that he saw no reason why he shouldn't be appointed. So, if you're a male, you can find other avenues of service to Jehovah. Not so if you're a lowly female.
But you may get to be a householder at a convention. So exciting.
You might get to give a demonstration.
Although now a lot of that, your jobs have been subbed out to the virtual world, so videos are replacing what the sisters used to do in the halls.
Yeah, that's true.
Women can't do anything? Clean the toilets maybe after the meeting?
Pretty much.
If I was a woman at the Kingdom Hall, I'd be pretty pissed. I'd be pretty pissed. Just saying. Revolt, ladies, just saying.
Helping someone on the road to everlasting life, it's the best feeling ever, and it's really irreplaceable.
The only thing I can say, as a young person, start pioneering.
What a fine attitude those young ones have. They are clearly following in Jesus' footsteps.
That's what I was talking about. They've got book bags.
Oh, man satchels.
Let me just point out this picture of Jesus with two disciples. Looks like they're holding book bags.
This one's got his arm around a strap. He's holding a stick. But he's got a bag.
Is that a stick?
That's a stick. There.
Oh, okay.
This guy's got a bag. He must be carrying all the literature for all of them. He's the pack mule of the day. He's like the caddy.
And Jesus is telling them, I guess, where to go. 2 by 2. Just like the Mormons.
Exactly.
Jesus was the wisest man who ever walked the earth. He could have pursued any career and truly excelled at it. He could have been the greatest carpenter who ever lived. Think about it. He helped his father build the physical universe. Can you imagine what kind of houses he could have built?
Yes, I imagine exactly what kind of houses Jesus could have built. The type of houses that were limited to the products that they had available to build at that time with that limited understanding of architecture at that time. He could have built what anyone else as a master carpenter at that time could have built because that was what was available. Limited tools, limited resources. He wasn't going to build a glass pyramid. He wasn't going to build any like spaceship Earth at Epcot Center. He could build what they knew how to build.
Or what if he had pursued being an inventor? With his perfect brain, he probably could have invented the telephone, automobile, or computer in the 1st century.
What?
I actually did some research on this. So
Wait a second. Let's just slow it down. Let's massage this a little bit. He could have invented the telephone, the automobile,
the computer,
or the computer in the 1st century CE.
Amazing. Amazing. So, just the most basic of thought processes here. First of all, didn't have the raw materials. Didn't have the tools to do any of these things. At the time Jesus was alive was the Iron Age. They did make steel, but it was very poor quality steel. So at the time, most tools were made with iron, cast iron, and occasionally copper, bronze, and other metals. They didn't have things that we have. They didn't even know about aluminum. I mean, aluminum, the most common mineral on the planet. They didn't know about aluminum, most common metal on the planet. They didn't know about it. You know, it's not used. It's what everything is made from today. They didn't understand quantum computing. Oh, how could they? They don't understand anything. So this whole statement is just such a load of garbage. I can't even believe he said it with a straight face. You know, and I read something. I was like, what does it take to build a car from scratch? I Googled it. And it was on a forum, some guy who was a very snarky response, which I thought was great. He goes, okay, so did you plant your rubber plants to get the tires? You know, you need rubber plants for that. Oh, what are you going to make the seats and upholstery out of? Oh, wires, copper, silicone. They didn't have anything. This is such a farce. It actually makes me angry how stupid it is. And that he could say it on a broadcast meant to reach young people who I'm sure think it's ridiculous as well.
I'm sure he could have built a Fred Flintstone car.
And with his perfect body, could have powered it at 70 miles an hour with those feet.
With Dino in the back.
Oh. Bam, bam. Either way, it's ridiculous. This whole thought process is ridiculous. It's unfounded, has no basis in fact or reality, and I gotta tell you, I have gotten really worked up about this because it irritates the crap out of me that somebody can say something so illogical that can be so easily refuted, and yet he sits there and goes, Jesus could have built a car. What the hell? He'd have been lucky to build a chariot. Oh, for crying out loud.
Or what about becoming a businessman? With perfect intelligence, he likely could have come out on top of every business transaction that he entered, becoming the richest businessman who ever lived. Or have you ever thought about if he had pursued becoming an athlete? And excelling in athletic contests was a huge endeavor in Jesus' day. With a little training, it is likely that his perfect body would have outperformed all people with imperfect bodies.
First of all, the statement, it is likely, you could just stop right there. It is likely. That means you made this up. You don't know. It is likely. Yeah, it's likely that pigs will grow wings and fly one day, but it's likely?
I just imagined Jesus as a gladiator when he talked about the athletic endeavors were very popular at the time. Are you not entertained?
And that's the other thing. I think we talked about this a little bit last week. Jesus' perfect body. What does that even really mean? What does that mean? Because perfection, everyone's idea of perfection is different. So did that mean Jesus is going to be 6 foot tall and 8-pack abs and ripped, you know, like, or does that mean, hey, what if God wanted everybody to be 5'5"? What if this is imperfect? What if being 6 foot tall is an imperfection? And in paradise, everybody's going to go back down to perfect height, 5'5". I mean, nobody knows. Everybody's idea of perfection is completely different. And that's the one great thing about the human race. Everyone has different standards for perfection. That's why, as my friend Mike used to say, there's a butt for every chair. You know, everybody's standards are different. People like different things. So the idea that God is going to make everyone perfect and there's going to be one standard for everything just doesn't make any sense. I don't know. What is your idea of perfection? Is it what he's talking about?
I just was thinking, yet his perfect human body still died within a couple of hours of being impaled. I mean, say what you will, but that's how the story went.
enabling him to become the most famous athlete who ever lived. Or one more example, what if he had decided to become a doctor? He could cure sick people, even raise the dead. Can you imagine how much he could have charged rich people to raise their dead loved ones? To raise their dead loved ones?
See how his eyes light up when he says rich people?
I was just noticing that.
We just noticed the same thing at the same time.
He sure got excited when he was thinking, boy, he could have charged people a lot of money.
Not just people. You imagine how much he could have charged rich people?
Can you imagine how much he could have charged rich people to raise their dead loved ones?
Ooh, rich people.
The most evil people on earth?
Let's take their money for God.
Yes.
Yes. We want it.
We want it.
But Jesus pursued none of these careers. Why? Because he knew that any of such endeavors would have only very limited and temporary benefits. Instead, he pursued something he knew would bring far-reaching and everlasting benefits: the full-time ministry. If this is how the wisest man who ever walked the earth, if this is how he reasoned, we are wise if we strive to think the same way. That makes me think of the comments of a well-adjusted teenage brother whom we served while in the circuit work many years ago. This young brother went straight into the regular pioneer work out of high school, and I asked him why he did so. He explained that he knew he could have gotten a full-time secular job and bought a new car for himself. But he reasoned that in a few years, that car would rust out and break down, and he would have nothing. But he knew that he could go into the pioneer work and build a close relationship with Jehovah, and perhaps even find an honest-hearted person and be able to teach that one the truth. And he knew that would last forever.
So he knew a young man many years ago when he was in the circuit work who went in full-time service. And he gives the story about that he knew he could have gotten a job and gotten a car, but in 10 years that car would have broken down and rusted out. Well, how many cars could that young man have had up to this point? The point is that the young man was living for that moment, believing that the end was imminent. And that he left that part out, that's why he was doing that.
Yeah.
So, you know, the argument that, oh, well, you know, we don't need these material things because the end is coming. Well, my friends, the end has been coming for well over 100 years. And you're going to get older, and life's going to go on, and eventually you're going to have to get a car.
And I love how he said, he was saying after a few years that car would rust out. I'm like, where is he parking his car? In the ocean? I mean, my last car I had for like 13 years. You know, take care of your stuff. This is a ridiculous argument.
Yeah. So, anyways, the story continues a little bit more.
Now that is some wise thinking on the part of that young brother. And today, that brother has a beautiful Christian wife and several spiritual children, and he is serving as a fine elder.
So, now this man is older. He has spiritual children, obviously. He never had human children.
Yep.
And what does he have to show for all of that?
I bet he's got a car now.
I bet he does have a car now.
Well,
Or maybe not if he's at Bethel. You don't need a car.
if he's in the circuit work, maybe they got him a car.
Yeah.
Here's a thought that I had when I watched this the very first time. Brother Let has been in Bethel since he's 18.
And then, yeah, I mean, I don't know.
He did circuit work, whatever. Right?
Circuit work, yeah.
He's been dedicated since then.
Right.
I was thinking to myself, how much more would I respect any one of those 7 men if 50 years ago they had gone to college and become an expert in dead languages, ancient Greek, Aramaic, Hebrew? What if they could translate the Bible themselves? What if they had learned in just 8 or 10 years enough to become an expert, somebody you could rely on and trust their word? Instead, these are uneducated men. And I know that sounds bad the way I say it, because it says in the Bible that, people will talk down that you're uneducated. But when it comes to translating the Bible, just something basic like that, none of these men themselves have any direct knowledge on how that's done, on if there's a mistake. They couldn't point it out to you. They have no knowledge of this stuff. So how much more respect would you have for Brother Let if he had a PhD in ancient languages? I would think that was pretty cool.
I know this is going off on a tangent, but I will say that whenever I have brought up to people who are witnesses, those who have dedicated their lives to learning ancient languages, who have dedicated themselves to being Bible scholars and have, actually touched these fragments of the Dead Sea Scrolls and know how to read it and translate it and have access to all that exists, that has been found.
Yes.
And they know what they're talking about. If you mention what they have discovered about discrepancies in the Bible, they scoff and sneer and don't believe that these people know what they're talking about. And yet they have dedicated themselves, their lives, and they have nothing to gain from it other than wanting to know the truth of what was written. So they don't have an angle other than wanting to learn facts and truth.
And this guy has an angle, but he doesn't have facts and truth.
Exactly.
So which one would you trust?
But if you young ones are going to think this way and continue to pursue spiritual goals, it is vital that you wisely choose your associates. In a sense, our associates can be likened to an elevator. What do we mean? Well, they can take you up or they can take you down. If you choose wisely, they will take you up, elevate your good qualities, and make you a better person.
If you choose all of your associates to be like on a higher floor than you, then you're the one on the lowest floor in that group. They are not going to want to associate with you. Think about it.
That's a good point.
It's true.
But if you choose poorly, they will take you down.
He chose poorly.
Depending on how badly you choose, they can take you way down to the basement, even the sub-basement.
Whoa!
Whoa!
Whoa! Whoa!
Not the sub-basement!
The sub-basement? Whoa! That's serious.
If you're in the sub-basement...
If you're in the sub-basement in Florida, you're underwater.
Yeah.
That's bad.
Don't follow the person in the elevator to the sub-basement.
Stay away from the basement.
The
sub-basement.
At Proverbs 13:20, our loving Heavenly Father, who made us, explains how it works. Jehovah tells us there, the one walking with the wise will become wise, but the one who has dealings with the stupid will fare badly. walking with and having dealings with means associating with. And who are the stupid ones? Well, this scripture contrasts such a person with those who are wise. It is not talking about someone who lacks mental intellect. It is talking about someone who does not make wise decisions spiritually from Jehovah's standpoint. And if we think about it, anyone who is not really serving Jehovah, at least right now.
All right, I just want to point out this picture of this group of young people. Now, true, it does look like someone's passed out with a beer can in their hand, but it looks like a group of young people having a good time, having fun, being normal teenagers. And I guess if you wear your baseball cap backwards, you're definitely bad association.
He's the worst one.
Yeah, and maybe even wearing jeans, because they're all wearing jeans.
I have to tell you this. Brothers and sisters watching, if there are 16 to 20-year-old youths in your Kingdom Hall, they have all been drunk. Every one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and hey, it's a part of life. I know I drank a lot before I was 21. I think I know a lot of people that did too.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And I mean, they're just making this, yeah, you know, we're not encouraging teenagers to drink and whatever, and you know, it'd be best if you held off on having sex until, you know, your brain is fully developed, but that's not until you're in your mid-20s, so I doubt that's gonna happen.
That's not gonna happen.
But, you know, on the other hand, if I'm looking at this picture, I'm like, this is just a group of kids having fun. And they want you to look at this and be horrified that this is, you should not be behaving like this. But this is something very interesting, because this is sort of psychological warfare here, because all young people could see themselves in this picture. I guarantee it, that they could say, I have been, you know, flirting, like attracted to a guy. I can see myself flirting with a guy by the lockers at school. That, you know, I can see myself there. Or I can see myself, you know, having a drink with some friends and laughing and, you know, enjoying myself. But that's bad. I'm bad.
The thing too is that it's almost like normal everyday things, like Robin was saying, just flirting with somebody at school, or just talking with someone of the opposite sex at school, which is probably one of the most normal things in the world. Even to put that picture up on this screen with people drinking and stuff does plant that in your mind. And that's why you see so many Jehovah's Witness youths also, but Jehovah's Witnesses just in general, they feel unworthy. They feel bad about themselves. It's because they're made to feel bad about things that shouldn't make them feel bad. All of these little subconscious images that you see and your mind picks up on, they're there for a reason. They're trying to really control your thought processes by what they're showing to you and what they're saying to you. And it's putting a negative light on something that's not negative.
Right. And telling you that this is harmful. You should see that this is harmful, and that it's so subtle, really, but it's there, and it's what's making these young people, including us growing up, feel like we were bad and that we weren't worthy, and you know, all the negative feelings that we had about ourselves growing up. So, you know, teenage years are hard enough without this crap being thrown in their faces, telling them that they're bad people. And I would say, and you know, hey, we know that there is problems in this country, certainly with teenage pregnancy and, you know, teenagers using drugs and, you know, getting addicted and things like that. We're not saying that those things aren't a danger. Certainly they are. But I've seen a lot of low self-esteem in Jehovah's Witness girls, and girls in general, just in the world that we live in. But when you throw this element into it, then it's just complicating it even more, making them feel that they are bad and that they're flawed and that they're never going to amount to anything. And I'm here to tell you that you're not. You're not flawed. You are special. You are lovable and worthy of love. And you don't need, certainly, an organization's approval of who you are and what you want to do with your life.
Yeah, that goes for everybody, not just women too. There's a lot of people who are pressured by the organization to be a certain way, or are held back from by the organization from doing certain things. You know, everything you guys want to do, it's valuable. You know, it's important. The other thing I thought was interesting about this picture is that it's kind of hypocritical, because nobody here is really doing anything bad. And how many of us, when we were young, even younger, this age, how many times did like our parents get together with friends and have drinks and go out and stuff? It's like getting together, laughing, having drinks. I know for a fact my parents used to have people over to play cards, and they would have drinks and have fun and laugh and talk, and there is nothing wrong with that. Kids see your parents doing it, so when they do it, what? It's horrible now because you're 20 instead of 21?
Right. And, you know, hey, the drinking age in this country is 21, but it's not that in other countries. So this could be somewhere in Europe where they're allowed to drink at this age.
And what if these kids just had 1 or 2 beers and they were actually trying to be responsible? You know, not everybody is out to get smashed all the time.
Yeah. I mean, we could go on and on about this picture all day long, because this picture to me, I mean, I had so many, my brain was shouting when I saw this picture. This looks like normal teenagers just enjoying their life. Just trying to enjoy their life. But you're only young once.
You got that right.
That one is unwise indeed. And if we associate closely with such ones, Jehovah says that we will fare badly. We could use another illustration. Think about someone who is physically sick and is running a high fever. If we spend a lot of time with that person, we will probably catch the same sickness. Or worse, if we spend a lot of time near a dead body, a corpse, we will probably pick up a disease. Well, it is similar with spending time with a person who is spiritually sick, or worse, spiritually dead.
So, I mean, we're sitting here talking about this whole thing about, you know, don't be around a dead corpse or you're going to get sick, or being around someone with a high fever that you're going to probably catch what they have. You know, they're talking about bad associations spoiling useful habits. But I just don't know, you know, who died and made them God to determine who is spiritually dead and who is spiritually sick? I mean, they're using very limited thinking about what makes someone not spiritually sick. They're making you feel like everyone who is not a Jehovah's Witness, or if they faded or an inactive one, that they are really horrible people. Evil, and that if you're around them, you're going to die. And they mean that not just spiritually, they mean it literally, that you're going to die at Armageddon. That's the underlying subtext of that, that you're putting yourself in line with being destroyed. So here again is another fear tactic of being around someone who they deem as spiritually sick or spiritually dead, that, you know, that the same thing is going to happen to you.
On the other hand, if we choose as our associates those who love Jehovah and who are building their everlasting future with Jehovah, we will benefit greatly. Please observe carefully this variety of young ones who are busy storing up treasures in heaven with Jehovah.
So now they're just going to show a montage of young people pioneering, young people at Bethel.
There couldn't be any more of a fluff piece. This doesn't mean anything, it doesn't say anything, it's just pictures, and it's...
We're not going to show it, I don't think. I think we're just going to skip that part. Because we just want to talk about the things that really irritated us.
This was too poorly done to irritate me. Just skip over it.
Like you said, it's just a fluff piece. So if you want to watch it, then you can go to JW Broadcasting and watch it.
How heartwarming it is to us, and we know it is to Jehovah, to see these beautiful young people doing what Jesus encourages at Matthew chapter 6, 20 and 21. There Jesus encourages, store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust consumes, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And if we think about it, in the final analysis, after all is said and done, whether we're younger or older, our net worth will be what we have stored up in heaven with Jehovah. We will not be able to take material treasures with us through the Great Tribulation. And if we die, we certainly will not be able to take material treasures with us.
If we die. So, this, I don't know if I've talked about this before, but when I realized that, oh my God, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. Everybody has before me, everybody else after me will. I felt like that was a really hard pill to swallow, because growing up, I believed I'm never going to die. I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to, unless I was, in some accident, whatever, but I was never going to grow old and I never was going to die. And to realize that that was a fairy tale and that everything has a beginning and an end, and that I would too. So this is such a huge disservice to young ones, to fill their head with this lie, that they're not going to die in this system, that they're not going to grow old. Wow, that is like a real head
screw.
Yeah, I don't want to say the word. It was a mind, you know what, to realize that that was a huge lie.
Yeah.
On top of everything else, that now I had to face my mortality. And I'll be quite honest that I feel like, I know for certain older ones who are in this organization who are now in their 70s and getting up there, who are just now coming to terms with their mortality. And I can't imagine doing that at that age. I've been aware that I'm going to die since I was about 30. And I'm 40, I'll be 40, I'm not going to say 45 this year. I am going to say, I'm not afraid of my age. But yeah, so just, they just slip that in there.
And it's,
if you die.
It really is a disservice, like you said, because it is shattering when you realize that, wait a minute. You mean I actually may get sick and have a long illness and pass away from something horrible? Like, you know, anything can happen. And the realization that you are no different than any other human on the face of this planet it's humbling.
Yeah.
And it is eye-opening. And to be honest with you, I'm super grateful for having that realization.
Yes.
Because it's that realization that allows you to realization allows you to realize, of course, you were able to see how precious life is, how precious every day is, how precious every person you meet is. Sure, you're going to meet people you don't like, but you're going to meet people that are awesome, that will change your life forever. And every day that you wake up is a good day. You know, I mean, really and truly, I have a friend who's quite a bit older than me, and I'd be like, how you doing? He's like, well, I woke up this morning. Sounds good so far, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just appreciation, and I think that's one thing that witnesses, I hate to say it about witnesses, you guys lack appreciation, because I know I did when I was a witness. I lacked appreciation for friends. I lacked appreciation for each given moment that I was living in, because you think you're going to have eternity to do everything 1,000,000 times over, you know. And
you're living your life for a day that's never going to come.
Yeah.
Is what you're doing. You're not living your life for this. You're living it for the quote-unquote real life to come.
Yeah.
So this life doesn't matter.
Yeah, this life is like a throwaway life.
Right.
The resurrection is the new life.
You don't even remember
life.
this life. You won't even remember it once you get in the new system. So, you know, I've tried explaining that thought process to people, you know, that are friends of mine who are not witnesses, that I said it's not the same thing as, you know, not being aware of your mortality, which a young person has a hard time with, you know, that idea anyways, and many people do have a hard time coming to terms with their mortality. I said it wasn't coming to terms with my mortality, it was realizing that I was going to die when I was told that I was not going to die. And they're like, I can't imagine being raised, being taught that I was never going to die.
And then the other thing, the other huge realization is that, okay, so now I've wasted my youth. I've wasted my youth now, and I'm gonna die. So like, all of the things that you could have, should have, would have done when you were young, you can't do them now, and you're never gonna do them in the future. So,
I mean, there are certain things that you can only do when you're young.
Yep.
I mean, it's just, you know, pretty much that's the deal with this humanity that these mortal coils that we inhabit.
Yeah, young and single. You're free to do anything. Why the hell would you go to Bethel? To a jail? I mean,
pretty much.
You know, and I was talking to somebody about this the other day. It's like the witnesses live in a prison of their own mind, a prison of their own making. And this was in a movie or in a book, and it's probably 1984 or something, I don't know. But they can't see the prison. They have built it themselves, they've locked themselves in, they can't see it. But you are free to do anything you want, especially when you're young, when you don't have a lot of responsibilities.
Yeah. So anyways, just thought, you know, wanted to point that out as something that he said that is also flawed reasoning, and one more lie coming out of this broadcast.
But we can take spiritual treasures with us through the Great Tribulation and even through death and resurrection. It is true with all of Jehovah's people, as it is with the anointed, what is stated at Revelation 14:13.
There's a distinction there. It's true with all of God's people, as it is with the anointed.
What is that? What is that all about?
They're making a distinction.
I thought there was no separate classes in God's organization.
Apparently now there is. It's true with all of God's people as it is with the anointed. Or maybe he's saying because, listen, have you read the New Testament? Matthew to Revelation. Have you just sat down and read it? Well, I've read it many times. I've read the Bible from cover to cover twice. Started to read it a third time. And what you will find if you're not reading it if you're trying to just release all your preconceived notions, Matthew through Revelation is directed only to those who are going to heaven. So I guess what he's saying here is, Revelation, this is directed towards the anointed, but it's also true for the rest of God's people. But anyways, that's a side note. That's a sidebar, really.
Unusual distinction.
But it's an unusual distinction. But I mean, I get it because all the New Testament is directed at only those that are going to heaven. So
little Bible info for you.
Yeah.
It says there, the things they did go right with them. And how encouraging it is to see young ones getting baptized, publicly demonstrating that they're giving their lives to Jehovah.
Now this is the segment that really infuriates us. Encouraging these very young people, children, to make a lifelong contract.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about, if you have been watching or watched Leah Remini's show about Scientology, there's something called the Sea Org that young people can join. And they have to sign a 1 billion-year contract. And any witness thinking about that saying, well, that's absolutely ridiculous. A 15-year-old child joining this organization and contracting to serve the rest of this life and 1 billion years, if they reincarnate or whatever it is they believe, for 1 billion years, a 1 billion-year contract, well, that's nothing compared to what these kids are agreeing to. They're agreeing to eternity.
Which is a lot longer than 1 billion years. More than 1 billion times 1 billion years. So
they're entering into a lifelong contract to be members of this organization, and that, they don't have, first of all, they don't have the life experience to do that. They haven't learned all the things they're going to learn about this organization.
Yeah, they know nothing about the truth of the organization if they've only heard stuff from the platform and from their parents.
Yeah, and from the literature. So this is just unconscionable to me that they're encouraging very, very young children. And when those children get to be, let's just say 18 years old, and they come to a realization that they don't believe that this is the truth, they can't just gracefully leave that contract and keep their family intact, their relationships with their family intact. They can't keep relationships with their friends intact. There's no way to leave honorably from this organization without being shunned.
Mm-hmm. So if there's any young people who happen to stumble across this, who happen to watch this, and you're not baptized, don't ever get baptized. And I say that simply because still associate with the witnesses if you believe, I don't know how you could believe it's the truth if you're watching this. But either way, that is the one thing that stops you from being shunned. It's like a get out of jail free card. Oh, you didn't get dunked? I can still talk to you.
For now.
Well,
after last summer's convention.
Your parents will still talk to you though.
Possibly.
So far.
And we sincerely hope that you young ones who are not yet baptized will not hold back from getting baptized as soon as you qualify. The sooner you can get baptized, the sooner you will receive greater protection and blessings from Jehovah.
So now he's claiming that the sooner you get baptized, the sooner you're going to receive blessings and protection from Jehovah.
What kind of magic is that?
How? What kind of protection? What kind of blessings? Hello.
It just doesn't make sense. Again, that's a statement that's thrown out there with absolutely no proof, no evidence, but it sure does make you feel good, doesn't it? It sure makes you feel like you want more protection in this life. It makes you feel like you want God's blessing, so maybe it is the right thing to do. But he's appealing to your emotions and not to any type of logic, because logically, it doesn't make sense for a minor to enter into a lifelong contract. Legally, a minor cannot enter into a lifelong contract. And yet, if you got baptized at 14 or 15, and for some reason you decide later in life that this isn't the truth, the organization has misled you, whatever, you're going to be outcast as the one who broke your promise to God. Mm-hmm. And that is what it really boils down to. We won't talk to you because you broke a promise to God that you made when you were 13, 14, 15 years old.
Or younger.
Does that sound logical to any of you? Anyone?
And as far as protection, I remember when I got baptized, when I was 15, and I won't say that it served as any kind of protection. Instead, what happened was I immediately was like, oh crap, I can't do anything wrong now. I cannot mess up, because not that I would do something to hurt Jehovah, because he's the Almighty. He can handle it if I do something wrong. And by the way, he forgives in a large way and sent his son for the forgiveness of our sins. So I always knew, even if I did mess up, that I would be forgiven, as long as I even if I didn't feel bad about it, that I would still be forgiven, because that's how he treats people. But I knew, though, that I would be disfellowshipped, and that the disfellowshipping would lead to me losing my family. I wasn't worried if I ever got disfellowshipped that I wouldn't survive Armageddon, because I believed that I was a good person, that Jehovah would see who I was, and that I would be saved, if that was true. But I knew that my family would shun me. I knew I would lose my relationships with all of them and my friends. And guess what? That is what happened. Although we weren't disfellowshipped, we disassociated ourselves through a video. We are being shunned. So, the protection, that's a load of BS. It's not a protection if it's a fear tactic to keep you in line of fear of losing your family and friends.
Mm-hmm. Not long ago, it made me very happy to observe a little 10-year-old brother get baptized.
Again, unconscionable. Happy to see a 10-year-old getting baptized? Happy.
How could a parent let their 10-year-old child get baptized? I question the reasonableness of that parent,
Yeah.
So what, if your kid smokes a cigarette at 13 years old, you're going to get him disfellowshipped and not talk to him anymore, kick him out of your house?
And young ones, never be afraid to identify yourself as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. Never allow the fear of what others may think to cause you to hesitate to do so. Jehovah tells us at Proverbs 29:25, trembling at men is a snare, but the one trusting in Jehovah will be protected.
They're warning you against fear of men, about fear of telling people you're one of Jehovah's Witnesses, but this whole organization would not exist without fear of man.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't, because they're substituting themselves in Jehovah's place by making all these rules and regulations and policies and procedures and things that are not in the Bible anywhere. But you have to do them and you can't question it.
Like the Pharisees.
Yeah.
Adding a burden to the people by their regulations and rules. Yeah.
Many years ago, when I was in school, I can remember being, at times, somewhat worried about how my fellow classmates would view me. But then a little while later, I got out of school and never ever again even saw most of those former classmates. Then it dawned on me. It doesn't really matter what people think about us. It is Jehovah's rating of us that truly counts. Humans cannot add even 5 seconds to our lifespan.
I mean,
then I guess we don't need doctors.
No doctors.
If they can't add 5 seconds to our lifespan.
Yeah, this has been touched on by a lot of people who made these videos. This is one of the more foolish statements in this video because, you know, a simple thing like if you have an irregular heartbeat and you need a pacemaker, it can extend your life to a full, normal life. So we know this is ridiculous. It doesn't make sense to just break it down. It's just stupid, again. And
yeah, don't bother going to medical school. Or even learning CPR for that matter.
Don't even bother brushing your teeth. It doesn't matter.
Eternity.